Good evening, fellow reefers. So this is the 1 month status of the coral reef build, the 500 liter build that I'm working on. And the topic of today's video is fail, fishless and fallow. Yeah, it wasn't a complete failure, but still the tank is fishless and I'm running it during a fallow period now. So let me tell you the story, what happened. I added, initially I'd add the clownfish and they were doing good, and then I decided to add the dwarf angel, the angel dwarf angels, and then powder blue and powder brown. And obviously I had decided that I'm gonna go for ick management. I'm not gonna do quarantine, I'm gonna go for ick management with these quite advanced tanks. But then I actually, directly when it come to the tank, the powder blue started scrubbing against the rock, and so I went to get a cleaner fish and also bump the feeding, because my experience is doing ick management, it's typically it is the food, or it is when their bellies go inside and they start slimming, then it's not so good when their intestines go in. They started that, so I started feeding heavily, but actually it developed quite rapidly, the ick. So 2 weeks in, yeah, I had a very long night trying to convince, or more likely trying to trick my fish to swim into the net. So that was a long night. So all the fish out of the system, and yeah, the clownfish I keep in other tanks, but the tanks and the dwarf angels, they are back in copper quarantine, and actually, knock on woods, they made it. So despite it being quite aggressive and quite fast, took the fish out in time to reverse the process. That's it. I view it as a failure. So now I'm keeping this tank fallow. On this coral side, obviously running fallow, I'm not adding any more corals, but I have a few additions. I'll review them later, some Montiporas in particular. But on the aquascape, yeah, I worked a little bit here on what you see here on the right side, removing the pillar, and then also made a base rock to put the corals on, because I have this idea that in this tank I want the corals to stand on the rock. But then here, yeah, see on the left side, I still need to create some more base rock, but yeah, I'll get to that. Due to the fallow, I've had to rebuild my tank and include a UV, and that triggered a bigger rebuild in the sump area. So yeah, focus is not on the aquascape, finishing off the aquascape. Yeah, the time I have, I spend in the sump. And on this side, yeah, it's not so much new. I think I worked a little bit on the bird's nest in the middle now, more of a centerpiece, and I haven't a plan here to add white sand. Puka shells are turning a little bit green now, and Then so sand and puka shells on top of that. Yeah, the growth actually on the corals, it's been quite favorable, quite good. Now I think also, what you see previously, I also worked a little bit on the lighting, having now a full max spec RSX setup with one 300 and one 100 watt of light. And then you can see in the here one of the head of the euphilia, it's actually cranking up a little bit on me, and I think the reason is that it gets shadow, so I need to flip it or tilt it a little bit to keep it happy. It's a shadow incident. But yeah, it's here in the Sump area is where most of the magic happened. So the first step was actually that I had to continue cable management with having the cable duct to take the cables off, and then to do something better for the tanks when they get back, I need to prepare with a big UV. So I bought the Aquamatic 55 watt UV light. But then the idea is that, I don't want the flow recirculating, so I built a manifold for taking water past the skimmer into a manifold, and then two valves. It's actually for for two reactors, and that is the part that I'm currently building, because I had to rebuild the head on the reactor to fit the hose connections. So that one is being rebuilt on one of the reactors, and if I work it out in a good way, I'll do the second one. And here you can see also that the manifold continues in the middle of the door, and this section here, it flows into the return of the sump, and the intention here long term is that I do plan to keep fragmentations and coral growth in this section. So right now I have a quite good sealed max spec 30 watt LED light. It's only 1 watt LED, it's not so powerful, but yeah, it's gonna be the starting point of that one, because I acquired it at a good price. And here also I think you can see that there's one manifold, actually two manifold, and one of the manifold will go to the algae reactor I have standing there, and the other one will go to a UV light which I fit here on this panel. And the plan is to first do the reactors, first do the first reactor, connect it, and then do the UV light connection. Algae reactor, I think we can take it a little bit later. And in the final door, to the right here, I have 2 buckets of 20 liter water each for automatic top off, and then I have 3 10 liter buckets that I'm gonna run with bulling, and that's the bulling pump. It's not installed yet. The 4th pump, I would like to run Calcusser on the 4th pump, but that's not prioritized at this moment. So this is almost good to go. We're good to install. I need to figure out a bracket for that one and where to mount it, but the focus is actually on the manifold, getting the reactor going, and then the UV, and then past that one it is getting the bulling going. So keeping up the levels right now, it's manual dosing. Yeah, and I say as I have the door open, here's the current status of the manifold. Oh, sorry, on the wire management, cable management, and I've used the cable duct with putting in on top side. I put Velcro, so all of the panels are Velcroed, and then I'm hiding the adapters in plain sight. I think this is okay. It's an okay setup. I've definitely seen worse, but I think I had higher ambitions. So let's see where to go from here. Okay, let's round off this video with this view again. Despite the setback or the failure, I consider myself lucky in the fact that these inhabitants, the corals, they are doing good. They're doing good in the tank. They're growing, so that is definitely a plus. Yeah, I don't like failures, so, but you know, you have to pick yourself up and just hit it, act and hit it harder. And I think that's what I've done with the rebuild of the Sump, including the UV and starting to quarantine the fish. But yeah, I also confess that this build of this 500 liter system, it quickly became a lot bigger than I had planned for or anticipated. So I'm happy that I didn't know this before I started, because yeah, I wasn't expecting more than a 1 month setup and build. I expected it to be a lot longer than this, but well, it is what it is. With that said, thank you for your attention. Have a pleasant evening. Bye bye.